So welcome back to this Let's Play of Resident Evil Revelations. We are now gonna do episode 3.2.
Raymond, that's you, isn't it?
The BSAA. A little too late.
What is the FBC doing here? Answer me, Raymond.
I don't have to answer anything. You have no authority over this.
There's no time to fight. We've got to...
Give it a rest. I don't even know why you're here or who you're fighting.
Raymond, stop right there!
Nothing will change unless you get your hands dirty.
So the FBC is on this ship too. What's going on here?
We're operating without any intel. We need to search this ship for answers. Not that I relish the idea.
Sylvester is here to fool Jill and Parker into believing the FBC is here in an official capacity, but in reality he is posing as Veltro on the ship to confuse everybody. In the years since the Terra Grigia panic, Vester has impressively progressed his FBC career, going from rookie and building up a reputation as a skilled investigator. However, he's also known for using forceful, sometimes over-the-top methods in his investigations. This has led to him clashing with several law enforcement agencies, and he has also sabotaged several BSAA missions over the course of the last year. However, he's willing to work with Clive O'Brien on this occasion because they both have that shared goal of bringing down Morgan Lansdale. By this point, Vester is on Tricell's payroll, and he has the same mission as Jessica, which is to secure a sample of the T-Abyss virus after Lansdale reneged on his deal with Excelligione. Vester reminds me personally of like a male version of Ada Wong, and what I mean by that is they're both highly skilled, highly mysterious, but underneath that sort of hardened exterior they have a moral compass. You know, Ada tells Leon at the end of Resident Evil 4 that she doesn't do evil, and in Resident Evil 6 we see her go out of her way to save civilians when she doesn't have to. And likewise, Vester seemed genuinely affected by what he saw in Terra Grigia and wants Lansdale to pay for that crime. That's his personal goal, and it also, you know, it almost comes across like obtaining the virus sample is a secondary objective for him. But by contrast, Jessica is all about acquiring the virus and wants to retain her role as Lansdale's protege, as this obviously increases her own power play. She has no interest in seeing Lansdale take the fall for Terra Grigia, and that is the source of the conflict between Jessica and Vester later in the game when we see that infamous scene in the casino where she shoots him and he's forced to improvise. Notice the Veltro safe on the wall there. This room was probably used in to plan some sort of strategy for the Terra Grigia panic. Discarded message. We find these sort of vague, undated files all across the ship, and they relate to one of the two outbreaks that happened on board. The way the writer here describes seeing real monsters leads me to believe that he was a victim of the initial outbreak in 2004 when Lansdale betrayed Veltro, having given them all 3 queen ships.
We should find an emergency communication room if we go through the hall.
We can get the shotgun with this. So note the recently deceased body of the officer here. He was clearly a victim of the much more recent second outbreak on board the Zenobia when Lansdale remotely released the BOWs from cold storage after he had received the vaccine data in an attempt to kill all the researchers on board and preserve his secret in the manufacturing of the virus. This cull was also done to keep the virus out of Tricell's hands, as it left Lansdale in charge of the only known production source, and obviously he would only know of its location out at sea. This file, The History of the Queen Zenobia 1995 edition, just tells us more details about the ship. Another nice reference to George Trevor, and again mention of the Paraguas line, which is Spanish for umbrella and a subsidiary of the corporation.
We should go to the emergency communication room. Maybe try to contact HQ. All right, we got to find Raymond.
How do you know him?
I used to work with him. Let's leave it at that.
So right now, whilst Jill and Parker are wondering what the hell's going on, Vester's next move is to get to the communications room and transmit the fake ultimatum threat video by Jack Norman to the BSAA. This video is doctored using a combination of archive footage from the Terra Grigia panic and other sources, as Veltro were well known for spreading their manifesto via video sharing websites at that time. Where am I going? Upper cabins, I think. Only Vester and O'Brien are aware that this video is a hoax, but once Lansdale hears of this threat via his spy in the BSAA, which is of course Jessica, he will be forced to come out into the open to protect his interests, and obviously O'Brien hopes that'll make him vulnerable in the process. Another nice guest cabin, spilled over chair and some blood. Wonder if someone committed suicide in this room, perhaps. This file actually relates to the initial outbreak when the Zenobia was at Terra Grigia during the incident in 2004. Lansdale betrayed Jack Norman and simultaneously released the virus across all 3 ships. Hassan was a member of the original team that lay siege to the city. This diary describes the initial panic of the Veltro members on board the Zenobia at that time. Just need to do a little bit of housekeeping. I know I've already missed several of these hidden handprints, but I honestly can't remember where they all are. But I will try and get as many as I can as we go through the game. I'm sure you're all screaming at me, saying you've just ran past one, but never mind. So I keep mentioning 2 separate outbreaks, which I know can be a bit confusing. So to clarify, the first one happened on the Zenobia in 2004 at the climax to the Terra Grigia panic. This was done intentionally by Morgan Lansdale to kill off Veltro and cover up his own collusion with them in the orchestration of the incident. And of course he planned the outbreak to happen simultaneously across all 3 ships. Now the second outbreak actually happened when a private research team instructed by Lansdale took over the Queen Zenobia after all the Veltro members had died. Now they sealed off certain sections of the ship, allowing the infected to roam in quarantine zones where they could be studied in secret. And the virus was also studied, and clinical data was applied that was gathered from the Terra Grigia panic. And work commenced on vaccine trials. Now this vaccine study happened over the course of a year while the Zenobia was at sea. So alongside the research team was a new crew, including a captain, bridge crew, comms officer, and it also explains why routine pool maintenance is still happening a year later. So we know the second outbreak happened in 2005, just prior to the events of the game. And this is why we still come across recently deceased corpses in early stages of decomposition. And also why we see things like this with sort of rotting food left served on tables as if to indicate the crew was still alive. not too long ago. I'm aware I'm using up quite a bit of ammo here, and we have got a boss fight coming up, so I'm going to try and be careful. Again, this second outbreak was planned by Lansdale to kill the research team and the crew after the vaccine was completed and its production data was transferred over to him. Another exquisite location.
Now this is what I call a cruise ship. It's like an opera house in here. So, where is this emergency communication room?
Once the vaccine was complete, Lansdale was supposed to share it with Excellagione and a Tricell research team. She wanted the virus and the vaccine as a set because it's worth more. Similar to how Frederick Downing believed he could sell the T-virus and its vaccine for more money as a set. But obviously Lansdale went back on his word, which is why Vesta and Jessica are here now trying to get a sample of the virus. Just before we head to the comms room, I want to go to the solarium and drain the pool, as there'll be items in here that I'll need later, so just bear with me for now. Now these sacks, or shells, are actually the curled up forms of wall blisters, which were a new creature introduced into the Unveiled edition of the game when it was released on PS3 and Xbox 360. They look like shells stuck to the wall, but they're actually just curled up. They're actually big green humanoid creatures, but made from some sort of octopus. And even though they appear to have arms, they're actually just tentacles fused together.
What is this place?
So what's happened to the pool here is the first indication that the T-Abyss virus had breached the initial quarantine zones. The wall blister creatures evolved from these barnacle mutations and then rapidly took over the pool. I do hate these puzzles. You just have to bear with me a minute. Sorry. So the cleaning report. This details the recent spread of the barnacles across the pool. Again, we can deduce this is from the 2005 and therefore second outbreak. The crew were basically living extremely dangerously as they were basically sailing around in an active biohazard, albeit it was somewhat contained in sealed off areas. But this is Resident Evil, of course, so we know it's inevitably going to get free. And what happened in the pool was the first indication that shit was going to hit the fan. This whole pool area is actually entirely optional. You don't have to do this if you want to complete the game, but if you do purify the pool, you can return later and have access to extra ammo and extra upgrades for your guns.
Filtration's gonna take a while. Should have known. I'll come back later.
You've probably noticed I'm not using the Genesis scanner. I find it a bit of a cheat, really. I think it really breaks the immersion when you can just scan a plant pot or a painting and find a box of shotgun shells as if by magic. So I tend to just rely on the ammo I find in the game, even though that obviously makes it harder for myself. Here's another picture of the Spencer estate in Europe. Chronologically, in a year's time, of course, Chris and Jill will head there to arrest Oswald E. Spencer, but it'll all go wrong and Jill will fall from roughly there all the way down to here somewhere, but she will be saved by Wesker. So by now all the sort of opening chess moves have been played. Vester's very much in control. Chris and Jessica are looking for the ship. Morgan Lansdale's looking for the ship, and of course the BSA are looking for the ship. Vester wants Jill and Parker to get to the lab and uncover proof of Lansdale's crimes before the ship is discovered, and obviously Lansdale wants to find the ship and destroy it before he is exposed. So the comms officer notes, we're now beginning to get a clear picture of the second outbreak now. Not only was the virus slowly spreading thanks to the infection in the pool, but Lansdale also released BOWs in cold storage to kill the research team when their work was completed. As the chaos unfolded on the ship, the comms officer has gone and hidden in a storeroom on the promenade deck, and as we'll soon find out, he's been there ever since, albeit not quite himself.
The promenade deck is next to the hall. Let's go. We should be able to find a key.
We don't have an exact date for when the second outbreak happened, but it was obviously very recently and sometime just prior to the events of the game. It must have been in the TGS trailer in 2011 for the original 3DS. We saw sequences that weren't in the final game, including shots of Raymond injecting survivors of the second biohazard on the bridge of the ship with the virus. And obviously this must have taken place just minutes before Jill and Parker first arrived. What we can hear now is the ramblings of the comms officer, who is degenerated into a creature known as a skag dead.
Looks like we found the promenade deck.
Comms officer basically locked himself inside a storeroom in here with food and kept himself hidden while everyone else was killed. But in the process of doing that, an ooze got through the ventilation system and injured him before he could kill it. And he was subsequently infected with the virus. However, the comms officer had a unique resistance to T-Abyss, which occurs in roughly 1 in every 1,000 human beings.
We have yet to find one survivor.
I'm just going to take the opportunity to upgrade my guns. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this sort of thing. I know it's popular in modern games, but I'm not into crafting and weapon upgrades. I'm very much of the old school thinking of, I just want to find a gun, and then later on I want to find a bigger gun. Sniper rifle. So this immunity the comms officer has happens in 1 in every 1,000 people. It doesn't keep them completely immune, they still get infected, but it just prolongs the process. The guy in here basically thinks he's still human. He develops fever for several days, and then a large lump grows between its shoulder and its head. Although reasoning is lost and the human loses control of the host of the body, it still retains awareness and remains conscious throughout the entire mutation process.
the comms officer.
It's not the best start. Definitely isn't going well for me. Oh. I just want to shoot that goddamn gas canister. Hear him shouting there that he's still a human. Apologies, but it's very hard to talk when all this is going on. I'm just going to have to abandon it, I think. Skagdad's left arm has also turned into some sort of bone saw thing. Quite a unique mutation. Oh, keep still. can't be far off now, surely. Finally.
He dropped something.
I know he did. I'm just trying to save my own ass, Parker, thank you. I do hate that boss fight. It's one of the hardest in the series for me.
Is that the key to the emergency communication room?
Yeah. Let's leave this monster-infested hellhole.
So this is the comms officer's journal. Details how he's escaped to the promenade to try and hide out and then subsequently got infected. It's very reminiscent of the Keeper's diary and is an obvious homage, to be honest. You can see he gets infected on the second day, but starts to develop a fever on day 4 and then loses track, starts talking to the second head that develops on his shoulders, and you know, obviously he's gone completely. But you saw the way the creature worked there. The original human head is pushed to the side, sort of very similar to how the G creatures work, I suppose. And its new head is basically just full of teeth. Its pain receptors are dulled, and we saw the massive mutation in its right arm. I'm sure there's a handprint in this kitchen somewhere. There it is. So now we have the key to the communications room. And even though the door is locked and has a gate pulled down across it, somehow, using magic Resident Evil NPC
I hope the
powers,
equipment in that room will work.
Vesta will be inside already.
Bad predictions tend to come true.
Skagdead process of 1 in every 1,000 is obviously similar to the Tyrant project, except with it only being 1 in 1,000, you know, there's a possibility we'll run into more Skagdeads before the end of the game.
Raymond!
Looks like we both were too late.
What are you talking about?
Huh.
Ignorant creatures who do not yet know of us. The time
Both
to
of you.
sleep has come.
Look,
Thou wilt did I remove. The desperate grief which wrings my heart already.
Little masked friend.
Ere I speak of it. But if my words be seed that may bear fruit of infamy to the traitor whom I know, speaking and weeping shalt thou see together. I know not who thou art, nor by what mode thou hast come down here. The world is in our hands. This is the T-Abyss virus, and we are equipped to infect 1/5 of the Earth's waters.
guppies in a Jaws. Shh, quiet.
And even a child could guess what will happen next.
We are Veltro. Vengeful messengers from the depths of the Inferno.
So this is our man. I knew it was Veltro.
Abandon hope, all ye who enter here.
Abandon hope? He's quoting Dante.
Send a team to Valcoinen Mock Airport. Look for something linked to this ship, O'Brien.
Yes, I read you. I'll send Quint and Keith.
What?
You two, get ready to move.
I hate snow. Snow hates you.
Just find out anything you can on Veltro.
I don't see a thing. I thought the Mediterranean was just like a big lake.
Be patient. Finding a ship at sea is like finding a needle in a haystack.
No kidding. But that still doesn't solve our problem. Hey, are you even listening?
We'll find you, Jill. I promise.
So that'll do it for now. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment or a question and we'll crack on with the next video.